Good evening. We're going to call our meeting to order. This is the recess session of the Nags Head Board of Commissioners for Wednesday, October 17th. Our first item is the adoption of the agenda.
Move to adopt as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. The motion passes unanimously. This is the time that we set aside for audience response. If anybody's in the audience and would care to come and speak to us. It's looking kind of lonely out there, though. Please identify yourself and come to the podium. Give us your name and address. Marvin, you sure? You're about my only chance here. Okay, we're going to close audience response. Moving right on through. Item D, modification to the town code regarding bona fide fishing tournaments to reflect nonprofit charitable events. Cliff?
Thank you. This, I think this originated from two requests that we've had recently from fishing tournaments. The Outer Banks Association of Realtors and the Bodacious Babes fishing tournaments. The definition of a bona fide surf fishing tournament requires that the tournament be in existence for at least 1 year. It requires a minimum purchase of 25 beach driving permits. And the Outer Banks Association of Realtors had hoped to have their tournament in Nags Head, and I think the other thing that's creating the interest of the tournaments here in Nags Head is the fact that the Park Service is charging the amount of money that they are for driving on the beach. It's causing those tournaments that are traditionally held in Coquina and on the Park Service property to look for places north. Kildova Hills does not charge for their beach driving permits. The minimum expense for these tournaments would be $625. Tony Parker, who's represents the Outer Banks Association of Realtors, was at your workshop with the CAC last week and asked that the board consider amending the ordinance to allow special use for a tournament, be it 1 or 2 day tournament. And the Bodacious Babes tournament is November 4th, and they've made that same request. Staff put some language together for change for an ordinance, and the attorney has done one as well. You've got both of those in your packet. What we're proposing is that add language that a bona fide fishing tournament means a fishing tournament sponsored by a nonprofit organization or where 100% of the proceeds benefit charity. We still feel like they need to be in existence for at least 1 calendar year, in hopes that leads to the legitimacy of the tournament. The last thing we want is somebody to, have a family reunion with 25 people that get to drive and fish on the beach for free and call it a tournament. It needs to be a legitimate tournament that benefits a charity. And also, I think some of the board and staff agree that at a minimum, the charity needs to be given the value of those 25 permits, which amounts to $625. If we're waiving the requirement for those 25 permits, then there needs to be a benefit towards that charity. And we also don't want overhead expenses coming off of any charity proceeds that might come from the town's waiving. And I think the attorney, if we can pull his up, and also that you'll see in there that it changes the town code to eliminate those 25. The attorney put one in where it's a nonprofit organization or any other group where 100% of the proceeds from the tournament benefit a recognized charity. And then leaving the in existence for at least 1 year. So I think the question becomes the minimum amount of money that the charity is donating, or that the tournament benefits the charity.
Questions for the manager? Yes, ma'am.
May I give a little bit of history? And this relates as to how it came about that the Nags Head Surf Fishing Tournament was waived for their fees. What we looked at the time was, number one, it had been in existence for decades before they ever even approached the town. And we also looked at the number of teams that they had that were from not just out of Dare County, but out of state. And we kind of evaluated and weighed at the time the amount of occupancy tax that was going to be collected, the amount of prepared meals tax that was going to be collected, as well as sales tax. And we felt that that outweighed the cost of the permits for the number of teams that they had, along with the judges. That's how that came about. My concern, and I know that they have done, and I've actually talked to them over the past few days to get a little bit more history lesson about, because I know last year the Nags Head Surf Fishing Club donated $5,000 after Hurricane Irene to the food banks, $2,500 on Hatteras Island and $2,500 up here, as well as they made some other donations. What I'd like to see in this, because when you talk about proceeds from the tournament, profit and loss statements can be anything you want them to be, and that's not aimed at any particular organization. But I believe that the taxpayers of this town deserve to know that something's coming back in, especially if we're talking about local teams, local people, that at a minimum, 50% of the cost of the permits go to a recognized charity. That's one of my suggestions. I don't think that's out of line, that if there's one team that wants to fish out there and they get 8 fishing permits, that'd be $200, at least a minimum of $100 go to a charity, if not 200. But I don't want to get into looking at profit and loss statements of charities. I'd like to have better parameters that are easily recognized. I don't want staff time to start getting encumbered by looking at proceeds and how do you prove this or how do you prove that. I'd like to see us just take a broader definition if we're going to consider even doing this. But there's history and opinion both wrapped up in one.
Thank you, ma'am.
Well, I have not discussed this with anybody, and I guess I could see the need. I'm just, we're putting together an ordinance, another rule or regulation or law for the town that I see as an encumbrance to the town. I would much rather see a set of rules, agree with everything you said, Renee, a set of rules saying the following, that what you mentioned about the certain amount of money goes to charity or whatever, but a set of guidelines instead of a town ordinance, and just let the manager handle it. Let the manager be the responsible person for when they come in and apply for, let him do the investigation. Let him send, if he's not familiar with the organization, put put one of the police officers on it or something like that, so they become familiar with the organization. I don't see us doing another ordinance I don't see a need for it. I think it could be done in-house. It can be done through the manager. The manager can sit down with the individuals, and if a manager has a bad feeling about it, then he can start an investigation. But just lay it off on him.
More of an administrative.
Yeah,
type piece
absolutely.
as
Yeah,
opposed to-
I just, it's another rule and regulation that's going to encumber the town. It's going to, if you do this ordinance, then we're gonna be in violation with a town law or a town ordinance. So we just have a set of guidelines and let the manager be responsible first of all, there's not that many of them. It's probably gonna be a dozen maybe. What do you think, Anna? A dozen fishing tournaments?
There's only 3 right now that I know of, and there could be, once you can do it for free, there could be 6 in a year and whatever, but it doesn't matter. They need to be all treated the same.
Right.
I think that's why this came out,
Yeah.
is,
And if you all desire, if there's a desire there to charge something for it, then the town can charge something for it. $50, whatever. If you're gonna waive the beach driving, and the whole idea is to get people back on the beaches, get them fishing and doing that kind of stuff, I think that's great. I just don't think we need another law to do it. That's my opinion.
Sure. Mr. Walter?
Well, I agree that everybody needs to be treated equally, and I sort of feel if we put the entire burden on Cliff to determine, somebody's going to squawk if they feel like they didn't get treated equally, whereas if it's in writing, we know everybody's treated equally. I'm not opposed to saying where 100% of the net proceeds benefit a recognized charity, and to a certain extent, I think you operate on the honor system with that. You don't require a profit and loss statement, and, you know, that, but the expectation is there. Now, if they come up and say we didn't have any proceeds, I might have to say, you know, you probably did, but anyway, I think this just clarifies the matter for everyone, you know, for staff, for our board, and then, you know, everyone's treated the same.
Well, I think several emails went back and forth when this was proposed. I know Renee and I shared one, Susie shared one, and I'm like Susie, if you're going to do this ordinance, you really need to be net proceeds, because I've talked to a couple of the well, I won't say founders, but two of them have been around a long time, as to how Nags Head Surf Fishing Club works. And that club does a lot of good things with scholarships, and like Renee said, the food, they're always giving money. Do they give 100% of their proceeds? Absolutely not, because it takes a ton of money to put on that team, on that tournament that has 81 teams, and all those prizes and everything. I mean, it's a lot of money. So I was thinking, well, they spend this and spend this and spend this, and then they have reserved to put on the kids tournament and then the member guest tournament. There is a net proceed, whatever it may be, and I said too, I don't want to get into looking at anybody's books. But if you could do something, and just for fishing tournaments, just like the OBAR, that give their money to charity, if you could say your net proceeds need to be donated to charity, you leave it up to the organization to determine. Now, like Susie said, if you find one year that doesn't have any net proceeds, you might want to say, well, you know, I'm not sure that you really need to have another tournament if all that work for nothing. The only other thing I can say about Doug's idea is, with Cliff, is I'm afraid that if you don't lay down some really strong guidelines, he may be perceived one day as being favored to one group and not another. And by the way, I did hear that the Park Service does give you, for $200, a blanket permit for your fishing tournament. Now, I did not have a chance to check that out this afternoon, but if anybody out there is interested, they could do it. And then the other thing I thought was, why don't we just charge everybody $200 for a fishing tournament and hope you'll give some money to your charities? That is, you know, it. I don't care if you have, you know, 3 times 8 is, you know, 200 vehicles or 10. I mean, you could do that. But like I said, if we don't do an ordinance, then I think Cliff should really have some things that say 1, 2, and 3, so that everybody gets the same, you know, chance at the tournament.
I think we all agree that everybody should be treated equally on this. I'm going to suggest that we, instead of looking at a percentage of proceeds, say they've got to give a minimum of $500 to a charitable group. And that's, typically, these organizations are presenting a check to somebody in the paper, and you can see how much is given. It's pretty straightforward. That covers, I guess, the cost of those permits. There's not a huge cost to us on this, I don't believe. You know, we're not foregoing a lot of revenue. These permits are for somebody to use from October 1st through May 1st, and this is one day a year.
Right.
So it's, I think it is a different situation than the typical beach driving permit. But that's, I'll throw the $500 out there as I think most organizations that are trying to raise funds are going to raise a minimum of $500. I don't think that's too high a bar.
Yeah. And just cut out all the other stuff up there, right there in the red.
I still like the fact that they must have been in existence for a year.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, I do agree with that.
And you're talking
And-
about the organization having
Right.
been in
And
existence
the
for a
ones
year.
we're talking about have been,
We think, most of them,
well, Bodacious Babes and Obar have been.
yeah.
Yeah.
I like that idea of a flat
Mm-hmm,
fee
yeah,
minimum.
that's good.
If they want to give more, that's great. We encourage.
At least 500, is that how you want it worded?
Would you substitute where 100% of the proceeds from the tournament benefit a recognized charity to just say where a minimum of $500 benefits a recognized charity from the tournament? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And Mayor Pro Tem, I think leaving it all up to Cliff, I don't think he can actually go against the ordinance that we've already got without giving him some backup that says, yeah, this is a different situation. I agree we want to do with as few rules as possible, but I think we've got to back him up. He can't just issue the permits without having
So you
something to
just
back him
change
up.
100% to
Well, I mean, I didn't
$500.
realize that this was an issue to start off with. I mean, I didn't know that it was an issue until the Park Service, evidently that's what's brought this to Bear Park Service, let you, I was told the Park Service would let you fish, have a tournament on it, so now I'm told you can. So I don't know, but whatever you want to do is fine. I think this is just another case of bureaucratic red tape. That's all.
Process.
Question, do you want to tie the amount that's given to being proceeds from the tournament, or just, because what I'm thinking is if you put in a minimum of $500, then other tournaments could be hosted where people think all they got to do is donate $500 to charity and then they get the reduced fee on the permits. What I'm saying is, do you want to tie it to the concept of these being proceeds or not?
I think most groups that are doing a charitable tournament, I think you got to put a little bit of trust in your groups. And if we have a bad apple, we'll figure that out pretty fast.
Yeah, I agree. We're getting into an area that we really can't afford to start off with. All we can do is suggest. And I don't think that I don't think there's an issue, going to be an issue. They give away, that's why they have these tournaments to do all these great things for the community and for them. So, I just don't see the issue, but, like I said, whatever y'all want to do.
Well, it's an easy thing to change if you find it. It doesn't accomplish the goal that you want.
Could y'all make the change up there on the ordinance?
It's a PDF.
Oh,
Do we have a Word version?
I can check if you can read my writing.
you scratching on there?
He's got a minimum of $500 given to a recognized charity.
Mm-hmm, that's it.
Okay.
Minimum of $500, that's it.
And I'll make that as a motion. Oh, sorry. I withdraw
We
that.
need to have nonprofit. It's sponsored by a nonprofit organization. They're given 500 regardless of,
I think that's
Status
where
or
you
not.
may want to have the more control. Because so far, that's what they've all done. I think what John's alluding to is it takes 20 vehicles times $25 is $500. So if you had a group of, say, 30 people coming down with, 30 vehicles, and wanted to have a 2-day little spread on the beach, it'd be cheaper for them to just say, here's $500 and save a few, and it would not be for a charitable organization. I don't know, I kind of like the,
I'm just thinking that or makes it sound like.
but the or is any other group, so you really are not distinguishing between a profit and nonprofit, you're just getting the money to a charity.
So you can be either a nonprofit or you can be even a profit group, but as long as you're giving $500, at least $500 to a charity.
That's how it reads now.
So, any other group, could that be like my family?
It has to, well, it's a group that's been in existence for at least the calendar year preceding the,
I think-
Thanksgiving, we all come down, give
I think your
$500
group's been
back
around
each, have a big
a
time.
while.
yeah.
The family group.
Your family would be cheaper to buy, yeah.
That would
yearly-
be cheaper.
No, a yearly permit and move on.
Anyway,
Then you don't have to go
Again,
through the red
I
tape.
really feel, Counselor, the more that we, the more that we massage this and the more that we get into it, is more of opening up Pandora's box that you don't want to get into. Now, like I said, this is kind of an attel or a blanket type of thing that you're gonna throw over it anyway, and it's gonna be overseen, as far as I can tell, by the manager anyway. So we just have to, we'd leave it to the best judgment. Like you said, it's easy to change. We'll change it later for surprise.
Yeah.
I like what Roberta's put in.
I do
Works
too.
for me.
He made a motion, I'll second it.
No, I'll make that as a motion, what's on the screen there. We have a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. Ms. Teague, consideration of a resolution opposing the widening of US 158 bypass.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Board of Commissioners. In your packet, you'll see this drafted resolution for your consideration. This is in response to your comments and discussion from the last meeting. The purpose of this is to state clearly, or actually to restate clearly, the town's position regarding US 158 and a possible re-widening, although it's an unfunded project, and even the DOT seems to think it's unlikely to happen. But what this does allow us is to communicate our concerns as part of the comprehensive transportation planning process, and ask that your position be included in that process. And what DOT staff has suggested is, when that CTP document is complete, that we get the RPO to make a formal request for a feasibility study to actually install some of these designs. So I'm happy to answer any questions specifically about the CTP process or about the resolution itself.
Questions from Ms. Teague?
Only one. In the memo from the gentleman from DOT,
Barry
where's
Hobbs.
Putter Lane?
Excuse me?
Where's Putter Lane?
I'm not sure.
It's in Kitty Hawk, and it runs
But-
behind, like the brew-through. It runs parallel to the bypass. And it's practically a one-way street, and it's called Putter Lane. It runs beside the golf course, beside
Thank
the
you.
Seascape.
Thank you very
I
much.
found that recently going to a baby shower when I was stuck in traffic for almost an hour. That's why I
Thank you
know where
very
it is.
much. I appreciate that.
Other questions from Ms. Teague?
I make a motion that we adopt the resolution as presented.
We have a motion on the floor.
Second.
We have a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Item F, discussion of police separation allowance. Ms. Guinea.
This is basically a request outside the normal budget process to consider making a contribution to the police separation allowance to get us back in a position where we're caught up with funding. When the economy got bad, we quit making annual contributions to this fund, and as you can see from the numbers, the available assets has continued to decline each year, and our liability is increasing. Try and answer any questions you might have.
Questions, Ms. Guinea?
Who oversees the separation fund? Do we do that ourselves for our people?
Yes.
Okay. So it's not done on a state level okay.
It's a requirement on the state level that we
Right.
fund this, but it's handled in-house.
Yeah, I know it's a mandate. I could never remember who oversaw it, so you.
We currently have 2 officers receiving benefits, and that's likely to increase by up to 3 more within the next several
Sure.
years.
I'd just like to see us just eliminate this talk about the increased occupancy and different things, and just strictly take it out of fund balance, undesignated fund balance, and move on from there. Not tie it to any increased revenues, but let's just fund it. Money's money. Let's not be We know what we have in our undesignated fund balance, and I would make a motion that we take it from there.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor, we have a second. I agree, I mean, it's an obligation that we need to fund. I will say that I would prefer to fund it on an annual basis, and I guess it slipped past me that we hadn't been funding it. So please put it, this is it's a priority, I think.
Okay.
Meeting our pension obligations it comes in front of a lot of things.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, either way, whether we had it funded or not, we still had to end up paying for it, even if it.
Correct. The
yeah.
advantage of pre-funding it was that we were
Right.
able to go for a few years without making a contribution.
That's
If it was
fine.
not pre-funded, we would have had to pay it on an actual basis as it was incurred.
Correct.
Either way, we had to pay it.
And how's it invested?
Huh?
Is it invested or?
And it's just in a fund, it's just in a fund here.
Same as any of the rest of the town
Yeah.
funds.
But it's better to pay a little each year than wind up with owing what we owe right now.
Correct, and historically, we were doing that. Each year was budgeted to catch up on what we were behind or short the previous actuarial valuation.
And the other benefit to doing this now is that the liability goes away in our next financial statement.
The valuation is as of 12/31, so if we make the contribution now, as of 12/31/12, we should basically be caught up or pretty close.
So when would your next payment be due? Not until next fiscal year?
Out of the next year's budget process
Right.
to be made sometime before next December.
Okay, that's
And we'll make
good.
it a given.
And is there investment income coming off of it being reinvested? I mean,
Yes,
Is it getting
Yes.
the 1% that we're getting on CDs?
That'd be fun.
On a good day.
You mean you're not getting the state rate of 7%, so they claim?
I always thought, it would be smarter to put that in a state fund, but they want the local law enforcement agencies to be responsible for their own separation allowances.
And the funds are actually dispersed, same as payroll, on a biweekly basis, so.
Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, like sign. The motion passes unanimously.
I'd like
Thank
to be
you.
getting 8% of that money.
Tell me if you can find a place to do that.
There are some risky.
You'd be right there, wouldn't you?
There are some risky things out there, and I don't want to put the town's money in it.
Item G, items referred to in presentations from the town attorney.
Oh, there you go.
The only thing I had to discuss with y'all at this point is just the update on the status of the Town versus Cherry Inc. litigation. That's the one where the Court of Appeals had ruled back in March that the town did not have the authority to enforce Part C of the town's nuisance ordinance. We had petitioned the Supreme Court to review that decision and had appealed on the grounds that there was a constitutional issue raised by that decision as well. On Friday, October the 5th, we received an order from the Supreme Court indicating that they had denied our petition for judicial review and had dismissed our appeal. So that is now the final decision on that part of the case. The rest of the case will be coming back for trial on the issue of the storm damage condition of the cottages, which is a separate ground for nuisance. And in addition to that, I would like to confer with the board in closed session at the appropriate time to discuss the Cherry Inc. and the Sand-Soda litigation.
John, just for clarification, would you tell us what Section C refers to?
C is the portion of the town's nuisance ordinance that provides that it is a violation of the ordinance for a structure to be located in whole or in part in the public trust area, regardless of condition. And the Court of Appeals had found that only the state had the authority to enforce public trust rights and that the ordinance amounted to an effort to do the same, and therefore that the town didn't have the authority to enforce that, which was contrary to many people's understanding, but in any event is what the Court of Appeals found to be the law. Part B of the ordinance is the part that makes it a nuisance for a storm-damaged structure or debris therefrom to be located or in a condition that leads to a substantial likelihood of injury or damage to people or property. And we have contended that these cottages following Norida have all been in that condition as well.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Item H, items referred to in presentations from the town manager.
The first request is that we move forward with the letter for the mayor's signature with your approval to Braxton Davis, the Director of North Carolina Division of Coastal Management. The board will remember that item, or condition 15 of our camera permit required that we monitor before, 1 year before beach nourishment commenced, to take samples of the benthic, the bugs, the fish food, and then 2 years after nourishment. We've completed that first year. The results are in your packet, and it's clearly evident that the benthic creatures are back. They're not adversely affected or impacted by the beach nourishment project. We broke this contract up with CZR, who has done the monitoring and collected all the samples, into 2 years in hopes that the CAMA would recognize that if they're back after the first year, that they're going to be there for the second year. So this is what we had told you about initially. We're requesting that to CAMA to end that requirement, and thereby saving the town upwards of about $100,000 to not continue sampling where we don't feel it's necessary, and we feel like the data supports this request.
Do you need action from us, just approval of the letter?
I think it would be helpful that it is sent with board consensus.
Motion to authorize the mayor to send that letter.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Two other things. One, I wanted to compliment the fire department, public safety staff, police department on a tremendously well-run fire open house. There was a huge crowd. There were some new elements, safety elements, interactive activities for the kids to participate in. It was a wonderful educational atmosphere. The staff did an excellent job. It was just one of those nights where you're proud of your employees, and the town looked really good. And I want to compliment both Chief Zork and I'm sure he'll compliment his staff and the police department as well.
I just want to say it was an all-hands event, and thank you to all the people that came out. It was wonderful to have 500-plus people there. Unlike most events, they wind down kind of slowly, but at 9 o'clock, we were still going strong. Kids were on the rock wall. They were still going through the safety trailer, and so we know that it was a successful event. And based on all the feedback we got, we look forward to, again, improving that for next year. So, but thank you for the support for the event. It's good.
And then the other thing I wanted to make the board aware and the public as well, that we received today an invitation from the North Carolina Department of Transportation inviting all to a dedication ceremony for Sergeant Earl Murray. The bridge 2.6 miles from US 158 on Collington Road is going to be renamed the Sergeant Earl Murray Bridge. That ceremony dedication is going to take place on Friday, November the 2nd at 2 p.m. At the Collington Volunteer Fire Department. So this is a tribute to a great man for a great reason, and we'll get that information out in hopes that as many that can attend will attend. And that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Sorry, I'm putting that one down. Commissioner's agenda, Mayor Pro Tem?
I'm good, Mayor. Oh, wait, am I supposed to talk about I'm going to be attending in your stead, or you could say that?
You're going to give the welcoming remarks at the Seafood Festival. Thank you.
And my last reminder about the Seafood Festival, it's coming up in just a couple of days, this Saturday from 11 to 6 at Windmill Point. If you have not ridden by there, all of the tents are up. It looks wonderful. We're really excited. I think it's going to be a great event. It's been more than a year in the planning process, and I would like to compliment Cliff and his staff, Kevin Zork, Kevin Brinkley, Ralph Burrill, and his people. Everybody has worked really, really hard to get this site prepared in coordination with the Seafood Festival Committee and the Visitors Bureau. They've done a tremendous amount of work. They have been a pleasure to work with. and most accommodating and most helpful. So I would just like to thank them for all their hard work, and I hope to see all of you on Saturday. So.
Y'all are setting the standard here, setting the bar. Best of luck.
Mayor, are you going to bring up an insurance resolution under your, okay, I have nothing.
Mr. Sapp?
The only thing I wanted to say is ditto everything Susie said. I understand it is going to be awesome, from things, a kid's zone right on up to all the food that you can possibly eat. I also would like to thank particularly Public Works, but certainly Kevin, you and your staff. It's amazing what that site has become just in the last 30 days. So I understand the tents are up. So I hope people are excited about it. Looks like the weather will cooperate, and hopefully this will be the first of many annual seafood festivals.
Hope so.
We already have people asking next year, could they have it for 2 days, Susie? I said,
Let's survive
you
the
got to
first
get
one.
off the ground first. But I don't have anything else.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 3 things under my agenda. The first was consideration of board retreat dates, and y'all had gotten a summary sheet, mentioned possible dates of January 10th and 11th, January 31 and February 1, and February 7th through 8th. Any preferences there?
I'm fine with any of them.
I'm fine with any of them except the first one.
Okay. Any conflicts?
Well, probably. Baby due, not mine, grandbaby due February 5th. So, you know,
Well,
you just.
You want January 31st or February 1st?
earlier rather than later, I would say to that one.
Yes. So,
Mayor Pro Tem, cruises?
No, Christmas, I'm going with Christmas. No, they're good.
Well, does January 31st and February 1st suit everybody? Okay. Well, let's call that for.
Set that date, that's fine.
Okay. I'd forwarded an email from everyone, to everyone from Mr. Uzel for Colony Ridge, and basically it described converting HA beds into private rooms. And the HA beds are the assisted living beds, and they say basically they don't have a lot of demand for that because there's another facility that fulfills that need in Dare County. And what they'd like to do is turn those into private rooms that they feel like they can utilize better. But they wanted to make sure that we didn't have an issue with that, and so I'm presenting it to you for your consideration.
They're in that business. So if they know better where their guests come from. So if they feel like that they can better fill the rooms being a private room rather than an assisted room, who are we to argue with that?
Fair.
I don't have a problem with it.
I have some concern, just because there may not be available beds at the other facility. And I don't know how many people that are just, quote, assisted living there at this point, but I think it may become problematic for our community down the road, you know, without knowing the numbers or the availability at Spring Arbor. I'm just not sure what the community impact will be, and I think HA beds in today's environment are not sustainable at current rates. It's a financial decision, you know, and I understand that. I do have concerns about the long-term impact on our community, so.
And they want to do away with all of their HA beds?
This will return the licensed beds at the facility. I would say reduce the licensed beds at the facility by 18 beds.
Large private rooms will be self-pay. That would be my guess.
Yes. There would be private pay and not
Yeah.
Medicare, yeah.
More money.
Well, are there questions, should we go back and ask, are there any assisted HA beds left after this?
I would want to know, like currently, how many assisted living beds are available at Spring Arbor? And, what is the long-term impact on our community? If they're going to do away with all of the HA beds, I think you're going to see a significant impact, whether it's, Medicaid, Medicare, the rest home beds are paid for by the county, or they were. I don't know if they are today, and I believe the county funds 2 of those. So then I would wonder what happens to those.
Are you getting all these questions down?
We do have a Colony Ridge committee meeting this coming Tuesday, and all this can be answered and brought back to the November 7th meeting.
And since I'll be in there in the mayor's stead at that meeting, and I told him he picked the wrong guy, but I certainly will ask some questions, yes.
Good. I think
They're
that'll
good
be-
questions. I never thought about the county does assist in, and so where would they go? I guess they'd go to Spring Arbor until they were filled. And I don't know how many rooms Spring Arbor has.
Yeah.
So we're going to look at Spring Arbor and see how many assisted living beds they've got and are they full or not? Does this reduction in HA beds leave any HA beds at Colony Ridge?
And I'll speak with Jay Burris as well and find out from the county social services what their feelings would be, recommendations.
I think that's a good idea.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Good. Well, and thank y'all for attending the meeting. I'm sorry I'm going to be out of town, and I appreciate Doug
Actually,
being
I'm
there.
looking forward to it.
We have a resolution opposing the proposed beach plan insurance rate increase.
So moved.
Second?
Third,
Did y'all get a chance to read that whole thing?
Do you have to read it?
No, you don't.
Because I'm definitely opposed.
30% increase, it's
Yeah.
an easy one.
everybody's talking about it.
Yeah.
When the proof in the pudding is that we are not the ones that receive.
Supposedly,
monies.
though, when it gets heard, supposedly, the interjection from governments and counties is supposed to make a difference, but I'm not so sure. We'll see.
Well, they ruled us out of order last time. We tried. My question is, how many speakers showed up to speak? I believe the public hearing was today.
Public comments yes, you're right. And I know Willow Kelly attended, but I have not spoken with her since. But from the emails that I've seen coming and going, there were busloads of people going.
And this did come to us from Carteret County, I believe?
Yes, I think it's a NC 20 model resolution that a lot of the beach communities have picked up on, but we crafted this from the Carteret County one. And we have some information on our website, you can find it on the homepage with some great information that explains some great talking points about why this should be opposed and why the numbers simply just do not add up. And especially when you look at the map and the occurrences, the events that are taking place, and there are very few dots along the coast, and it's all centered in the northwest or the western part of the state, where their increase is $10, where ours is $400 per $75,000. So it really sheds a lot of good information on why this just doesn't make sense.
And it's based on modeling and not historical data.
That's the map
Yeah.
I'm referencing where
Yeah.
you can see where all the occurrences are happening. But we're getting 30% out here where there's no dots. But if you look up around the Asheville area where they're getting little to no increase.
Mayor, on that note, I think on our website it says that, but you have until Friday, as I
Correct.
understand, for anyone to oppose or not oppose the increase, and there's Didn't it have you, the email address and everything on there? It seems like, okay, it's up there. And I just wanted to say that the Village at Nags Heads Association wrote a wonderful letter, I think it was 2 pages, about all the reasons that they, as an association, were opposing it. I just wish that, you know, a lot of people out there that are listening could do it, because it's just, I mean, we think insurance rates are unfair now. You wait. This is just another nail in the coffin of the real estate world.
Well, if you look at what they've got up there, what they quote isn't even a realistic cost of a home. So they're leading you to believe that it's $414, but there's not many houses I know of in Dare or Currituck counties that are $75,000, and that's a $414 increase. So you're looking really and truly more at a 4-figure increase, not
Yeah,
a
you are.
3-figure increase.
Yeah, close to a 4-figure. Everybody.
Mine already was 5 figures this year increase.
Well, thank you for bringing this forward, Cliff. I heard a motion and a second. I'm not sure who I heard them from, but they were all at once, I think.
I made the motion.
I think I did the second.
Okay. Got that, Carolyn? For any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. The motion passes unanimously. John, if you'll give us the motion to enter closed session for purposes of consulting with our counselor.
Yes, sir. The board needs to go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A3 in order to confer with the board's attorney regarding the Cherry Inc. and Sans Soda litigation.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion passes unanimously. We're going to recess to a brief closed session. We're going to come back into open session. I'll ask our attorney, Mr. Lighty, to report out from the closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The board did discuss the litigation matters with the town's attorney and did give instructions to the town attorney, but otherwise no actions were taken.
Thank you, sir. Seeing no other business to come before the board, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. We're adjourned.